Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Matt Greeley, founder and CEO of Bright Idea.
All right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be back here at Synthesize a year later. It's been an amazing year for Bright Idea, and I'm going to go through a little update on the market and the business and why we think this opportunity is so exciting for you. I think that's a live stream. So I want to start with the most important thing, obviously, which is just to thank all of you, our customers. It's an amazing experience to work with some of the most innovative companies in the world. You look up here, you see the top brands literally in the world. And we love every day showing up to work, to work alongside you, to co-create, to collaborate, to define what this category will eventually be. So thank you to our customers. Every year I challenge the Synthesize team. I say, you guys got to come up with something good, something better, something outside the box, something not status quo, something worthy of our community here. And when the team came to me and they said, we want to do the conference at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, I thought, that's genius, that's awesome. But I also thought that's going to be really, really hard because these guys don't exactly just shut down their museum for the day and let companies come in and take over their space. But we sat with the team here and we explained what all of you do. We explained about the connection to creativity and new ideas, and how that paralleled with art, and how it would be the perfect place to kind of take a pause and stand back and connect and synthesize everything we've learned from the past year. So we're here. It's a beautiful forum, and congrats to the team who put all this together. Celia, Maggie, amazing stuff. Since we are in the Museum of Modern Art, I thought I'd start with the story of my favorite artist, who's a guy by the name of Alexander Calder. I first discovered Calder at the Stevens Institute of Technology, where I went to study computer engineering. And just a day or two after I met Vincent in the freshman dorm, I was taking a tour of the library. And as I walked into the lobby of the library, I looked up and I saw this contraption hanging from the ceiling. And the tour guide said to me, this is a piece of art by Alexander Calder. He invented the mobile, and he's one of our alumni. And I immediately thought, invented the mobile? Like, the mobile was invented? I thought it kind of always existed, right? You just it's something you hang over your baby's crib, and it lets your kid go to sleep at night. But no, as I looked more deeply into it, that wasn't the case. So I want to tell you a little bit about Calder's story. Calder was born at the end of the 19th century, and in some ways he was an artist from the day he was born. His mother was a painter and his father was a sculptor. And even from the youngest age, he started playing with wire and sheet metal and bending it into forms, and actually made toys for his sister. His sister actually bought him pliers for Christmas one year. This is sort of post-Depression years, and he would twist this wire into toys for the family. Here's another one where, as you actually pulled this horse along, it would animate and animate the horse. And Calder was said to actually be able to sketch with wire. He would carry around pliers and wire, and he'd do a quick sketch with his wire. So, but I think the life of living with artist parents, he moved from where he was born in Pennsylvania. He moved to Arizona. He moved to California, back to New York. I think that sort of tumultuous life of living as the child of artists was a bit much for him. So he decided to pursue a career in engineering, which is where my path intersected with him. He went to Stevens Institute to study mechanical engineering. And although he wasn't a very notable student, people did say he was very smart and he could always find the answers to calculus equations, even though he didn't really follow up with his schoolwork that much. When he finished school, he took a couple jobs, and the first one didn't go so well. He was an engineer in a window sash factory, and he lasted 2 weeks. He said he didn't like the lighting. And then he went on to become an insurance detective. That didn't last very long, and finally selling agricultural products. And eventually the siren's call of art brought him back, and this is a picture of the Art Students League in New York, where people were studying art, and that artist DNA in him after this education as an engineer kind of pulled him back. He moved to Paris, and he started doing more serious wire sculptures, here mounting them on a wood block, and he really began to master his craft of this wire sculpting. This is a three-dimensional piece that if you actually turn that crank on the bottom right, the fish actually swim and move and the waves move. So he's really taking this to another level. To anyone else, he probably seems really quirky and they wouldn't really consider this art, but he was doing this. And this sort of reached its pinnacle when he created the circus. And the circus was a composition of 100 different pieces. There was a stilt walker, there was a lion tamer, there was even trapeze artists that would swing from one trapeze and let go of one trapeze and jump onto the next trapeze. And he basically created all this, and it was the chic avant-garde thing to do in Paris at the time, to arrive at an apartment where someone had asked Calder to perform his circus, and he would come and he would make all these figurines move through their motions, etc. Motion at the time was a really big theme in the art world. Marcel Duchamp created this painting called Nude Descending Staircase, and it created quite a stir at the time, because people showed up expecting to see a nude, and here was this cubist rendering, kind of rotoscope rendering of a presumably a naked woman walking down the stairs. So artists were seeing moving pictures and television come on the scene, and they were trying to figure out how were they going to be relevant, how could they compete with this moving medium when all they had was oil and paint. And Calder was painting as well, and there's a sense of movement here. You see these sort of squiggly lines wrapping around circles, and so he was trying to convey that. This idea of conveying movement on the canvas is what eventually led Jackson Pollock to do his drip paintings, where he was literally dancing above the canvas, and he would let the paint fall, and he would let his cigarette butts fall right onto the canvas and become part of the work and kind of capture a snapshot of motion and movement in that time. So Calder finds himself in Pierre Mondrian's studio. Pierre Mondrian was a leader in abstract art, and he's looking at this painting and he says, I really wish those blocks could move. They're beautiful, I love the form, but I really wish those blocks could move. And so he starts tinkering like any engineer would, and I think we have a video here. I'm going to let this play for a second. But he literally, combines the motors and the wires and the electronics, and you can in my opinion, it's a little bit clumsy, but he has this spiral thing spinning. He has this red ball jerking around. The red ball actually goes outside the frame for a period of time and comes back. But he's got his motion. He's captured motion on the canvas. He goes on to do several other pieces like this. Some were motorized, some were not. This is called red frame. The previous one was called black frame. And then slowly he starts to question, does he need those motors? Can he just sort of hang things in front of the canvas? Here again, another abstract form, hanging things in front of the canvas. And then here, in my opinion, we see Calder at the liminal moment of creativity. And everything in his life has led him to this moment, the playing with pliers, the wire, the time in Paris with the abstract artists. But there's something is still not right. He's got his forms, and they move a little bit in front of the canvas, but something's still not quite right. And he's right there. And I think he just has a breakthrough, and he realizes, sorry for the quality of this photo, but boom, I'm just going to forget the frame. I'm going to forget the canvas. For 2,000 years, artists have either done sculpture or they've done painting. And Calder comes right down the middle and says, I'm going to do a sculpture painting, and I'm going to forget the canvas. I'm going to hang it from the ceiling, and I'm going to let it move on its own. Here we see the artist and the engineer in perfect harmony. The balance, the mechanical engineering, the color, the form. I don't think anyone else in the world could have done this at that time. I don't believe if Calder did not live that we would have mobiles. And this is the stuff that gets me so excited about ideas and innovation. Marcel Duchamp came along and he saw what Calder was doing. He's a French artist, and he said, mobile. He gave it a name. He gave us a way to think about what this thing is, this new thing that Calder added to the cultural heritage that we all share. So I think there's a couple key takeaways from all of this when I look at this story, ways that Calder thought bigger. Number one is he had to literally think outside the box. He had to forget the frame. And you know, we talk about it all the time at Bright Idea. What are the bookends of your project? Look at the project you have, and look at the bookends that surround it. It's a device to kind of look more broadly at the problem that you're looking at. So he had to forget the frame or question the frame. He had to tinker. He needed a lot of time. He needed space and time to be able to play with these ideas. This is a more complex solution to the problem, but eventually he was able to strip out those motors and strip out those gadgetry, and then he needed design. He needed to bring this to a formal height so that the world could adopt his ideas. And I think he created something beautiful. And you know, in some sense, this is why we're here. This is why we're in the Museum of Modern Art, because this is a church, if you will, to ideas. You know, in some sense, art is the fiercest competition of ideas because you have such a narrow playing field to play on, and it's so hard to express new ideas that haven't already been expressed in the 2,000 years prior. But in a broader sense, this is why we're here as this community, this group, that what I cherish in all of you is that you create these spaces, you create these opportunities, and when someone comes along and goes down some blind alley and tinkers and works in a dark corner for a little while and comes back with something beautiful and gives it to the rest of us, we can all just go on Amazon and buy one for 20 bucks. So this is why I think innovation is such a beautiful thing, that these ideas come out of nowhere, and if they're good enough, that you can convince the world to adopt them, and why I'm so grateful that I'm here with all of you working on this in this area. So cheers. Okay, back to business. I'm going to talk a little bit about how the market's evolving, and then what we see as the opportunity for all of you, and how you can attack that opportunity. So I'm going to start back in 2002. In 2002, Gartner produced a report on idea management, and there were a couple intrepid software vendors. Bright Idea was one of them. There were a couple others. And it was this new thing, and they called it idea management. And you know, it was great. We were excited. We thought it was this watershed moment for the market, that the analysts were starting to talk about this as a category. But when we started to ask the most basic questions of innovation, we started to ask, who's the customer? You know, what problem do you solve? What value do you provide? We realized that idea management really isn't enough. With idea management, you can have multiple people that want to collect ideas. You can have multiple sources of value. You can have different problems that you solve for different people. So what happened was the vendors at the time just started exploding options. It was just like options and options and options. And if you were doing stuff with patents, we had options for that. And if you were doing stuff with new product development, we had stuff for that. And if you were doing stuff external to the company or internal to the company, there were options for that. And that's fine, but you actually end up wasting a lot of time and money when you do that, because unless you know what all those options are, it's really hard to get yourself set up for any one of those usages. So we began to question, idea management, ideation, crowdsourcing. In our view, it's a technology, it's not a solution. And you really have to think about the individual and the role and the job to be done to make a solution. So in 2015, we introduced our first 3 innovation apps. It was a bit of an experiment. We were just kind of trying things out, but they were well adopted. And the idea was really just to look at what some customers were doing with our platform and make that more accessible. Let people understand that here's one thing you can do with this platform, and it's easy to do, and you can be successful with it. So we tripled down on that in 2016, and we added another 6 apps for a total of 9. And the thinking here was just, how do we save customers time and money? If we can get them to do the same thing they're going to do, but we can save them a little time and money, that's a great thing, and it sort of becomes inevitable if we can give all of you something that lets you do your job easier, cheaper, faster, better, then it's sort of inevitable that they'll be adopted. And that's really what happened. This is our latest data of new initiatives created with apps, and over 70, almost 3/4 of all new initiatives have been created with the apps. We did some rough calculations. We feel like we saved customers over $750,000 in just setup time with apps, et cetera. So congrats to our product team. So today we are going even further. We're introducing 6 new apps for a total of 15. And you're going to hear a lot more about this in the product presentation later today. But I want to talk about this because, you know, these apps, you know, we just see, okay, this customer is doing this, it works. How do we help more customers do that? But, you know, it's really, it ends up being a little tricky because there's so many innovation processes. I mean, we've got 15 today. Are we going to have 30? Are we going to have 50? We're not even sure. So admittedly, it's a little bit overwhelming to start thinking about all these. And when someone comes in and they say 15 apps, it's like, whoa, where do I start? So we really, we sort of had our own medicine, and we said, it's time to start looking at this as a design thinking person would. And let's look at the people and the roles and the individuals that are involved, and what are their needs and what are their jobs to be done. And we started to see these distinct personas emerge. And we've labeled these buckets challenges, labs, ecosystem, and transformation. And this is really how we see the corporate innovation management landscape today. I'm going to go through it pretty slowly, just so everyone has it. I frankly think it's old hat to some people in this audience, but I do think that you guys have been pioneers, and for every one of you, there's another 9 companies. For every one of your companies, there's another 9 companies that have yet to even start this journey. And for every 5 people on your team, there's another 45 people, maybe within your company, that are doing innovation in different pockets. And I think if we can make this a little bit simpler, a little bit more understandable, we can really activate this whole movement of innovation management. So challenges, most of you know, we sort of cut our teeth as Bright Idea here as the leading platform for internal crowdsourcing challenges. We're launching a new product today, Innovation Labs, so congrats to the product team. We're going to release some new apps in the ecosystem. This is when you're interacting with startups outside of your company and the external ecosystem. And then we're going to release some new apps into the transformation area. This is about the corporate layer, the strategy layer, and the doing company-wide innovation and transformation. So again, I just want to take a moment and pause here. I think a lot of you have this is not news to you, but I do think that there are a lot of new people waiting in the wings, so to speak. That the people in this room were the ones that were willing to go forward when there wasn't a map. They were the ones that were willing to pioneer, the ones that were willing to take chances and figure it out on their own. And we're trying to do a favor to the next group of people and sort of show them the trail a little bit, show them the trails that you guys have cut, so that they can speed on their way a little bit faster. So this is how we're going to be aligning the Bright Idea product portfolio going forward. As I mentioned, there are some existing apps and some new apps in each of these buckets, and Genevieve and crew are going to be back to share all the good stuff there. Okay, for the last part of my presentation, I want to talk about the opportunity here, and I really believe it's a massive opportunity that is presented to all of you here in this room. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the opportunity, and I'm going to talk a little bit about your leverage or the assets that you have to exploit this opportunity. So number one, I don't think this is a surprise to many people in the room, but it helps to remind ourselves every once in a while that we're living in exponential times. This is the famous Moore's Law chart. And people have seen this. This is a logarithmic scale, so of course it's more exponential than the data, than the visual would present. But what I think people lose sight of here when they say, oh, is Moore's Law is over, or people using multiple chips and all that other stuff, is this trend towards more computation has spanned totally different technologies at the top, from transistors to vacuum tubes to punch cards. There's just an insatiable demand for this compute power, and whether we have to do it with one chip or two chips or totally different chips or quantum computers, it doesn't really matter. The demand for this compute power is so strong that it's just gonna keep pulling the demand is gonna keep pulling this technology out. So again, I don't stare at these charts every day, but I do think it's a good thing every once in a while to take a step back and say, what does it really mean if compute power continues to move forward at an accelerated exponential rate? And I have some ideas here, but here's another exponential that I try and look at once every 6 months or so. This is the population of the world. And it's pretty staggering if you think about it. I mean, we are in uncharted territory, to say the least, and it doesn't look like it's going to abate. So what are we doing differently this year that's fundamentally different than last year to deal with this? I think it's an interesting problem to consider, and I think it bounds the opportunity for and the need for more innovation to do more with less, whether that's how we deal with our planet, our energy, our food, our water, etc. And some surprising things have come up from all this exponential growth. I never would have thought that you could get a wheel, a motor, and a battery sufficient to carry someone driving down the sidewalk. I just never would have thought that would happen. I never would have thought that a car is going to drive me to work, and yet it seems like we're on the verge of that. And I certainly never would have thought that we'd be making it cheap to get into space and take trips to Mars for the cost of buying a house. So I think it's just important to realize one pillar of this opportunity that you all are executing against is that we're living in exponential times, and what's possible is it's way bigger than it was yesterday, and it's going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. There was an old adage that the company in the old days, the big companies used to eat the small companies, and people now say that the fast companies will eat the slow companies. And I'm going to say that the companies that think bigger are going to beat the companies that think smaller, because these exponentials are giving us new capabilities, new capacities every day that unless you're thinking in very dramatic ways about how the future is going to be fundamentally different, you're likely to be left behind by someone who can think bigger than you. So that's us living in exponential times. Number two, corporate innovation is exploding. I went through our innovation management landscape. There's massive amounts of opportunity to expand your role and your impact with your innovation program. You'll probably hear about hackathons, you'll hear about incubators, you'll hear about working with startups, co-creation, accelerators, corporate venture capital. There's just this veritable explosion as companies are trying to put chips on the table to try and meet the demands and stave off disruption. So again, we're filling in some details for you. There's always going to be more than we can do. I had 3 conversations last night. I think it was Nike, GM, and one other, and they're all talking about this kind of the micro assignments and the gig economy. And no, we don't have that for you today, but we are listening, as we always are listening. And maybe there'll be an app for that in the future. but we think this landscape's going to continue to evolve. So corporate innovation is exploding. It's up to you if you want to take the bull by the horns and scale your influence and your impact. I think we've got some great stories on how to do that coming up. And last but not least, you get to make the world a better place. And what's a better opportunity than that? You know, how many people go to work every day and they say, if I do my job well today, I make the world a better place. You know, if I do my job well today, I advance a cancer treatment that wouldn't otherwise get advanced. If I do my job well today, I advance a safety system on a car that might save lives. If I do my job well today, an agriculture company will be able to produce more food per acre than they ever have before in the future, in the past. So to me, that's the third component of this opportunity that you guys all have, is that you just simply doing your job, you can make the world a better place. Okay, I've got a couple more slides on the leverage you have to exploit this opportunity, the assets you have to exploit this opportunity, and I'll go through them. Number one, your passion for innovation. Had to put an obligatory Steve Jobs slide up here. We miss him. I think Apple misses him. But you know, your passion for innovation is your greatest strength. It will stoke your fire when times are dark and you need a friend, and it'll always see you through. So I think that's a key piece that you bring to the fight with this opportunity. Number two, your experience. You guys have worked in these companies, you understand the politics, you understand the dynamics, you understand the org structure, you understand how the budgets flow, you understand how these things are aligned, and you know, as this opportunity around innovation management explodes, that's all going to be more and more valuable. I can tell you, our customers are dying for new people who understand this stuff. They're dying for people who understand crowdsourcing. They're dying for people who understand design thinking. They're dying for people who understand lean startup. There's just a tremendous opportunity, and your knowledge, your experience, your real world in the trenches, you know, work is priceless with this opportunity. Number three, your company's commitment to innovation. Recent PricewaterhouseCoopers study said that 75% of companies now think that innovation is as important or more important than operational efficiency. That's a massive sea change over the past 5 years, when companies were recoiling from the lost revenue in the global financial crisis, and they're all just trying to save money. It's really foot on the accelerator time, and I think that's why all these new teams and programs are being created. We like to believe you've got a great partner with Bright Idea. Obviously, our mission is to transform the way the world innovates, and we truly believe at Bright Idea that innovation has the power to make the world a better place, and that's why we do all of this for you, to give you these tools to attack this opportunity. A couple more points on Bright Idea. I told you last year we were going to be thinking bigger about our company and our product and our platform. Well, we've just hired 2 senior executives, and we've got a couple more open seats on our executive team. Cameron formerly worked in MindJet and has a lot of experience in taking global sales teams international. And Michael formerly worked with PeopleSoft and did a lot of professional services work, you know, sculpting that platform for key customers. We also think our vision and our direction is an important piece that we bring to the table. This is our master plan, and you can see here everything we're talking about with these new products is the innovation management wave. We think there's a whole nother Horizon 2 wave where traditional R&D functions get infused with crowdsourcing and collaboration, the power of the crowd. And the third horizon is what we call the innovation grid, where you create these internet marketplaces and exchanges to transfer the intellectual property and accelerate innovation. We also think we've got a great platform. I went through this. You're going to hear more about it. I won't get into it. And we've got a great ecosystem. So are there any partners here in the room? Can I get the partners to stand up for us? We've got people who've come in from Europe, from Asia, from South America. It's going to be a big area of investment for us in the next year. So we think to take this message and this mission global, we're going to need partners. We're going to need people who can integrate the platform. We're going to need people who want to build third-party apps for the platform. And I would just ask you to really soak up this experience while you're here at Synthesize. It's an amazing group of people. And I've never met a bright idea customer who wasn't willing to share a war story or share some insights or share some tips. There's something about this role of an innovation leader that they really just want to help and be helpful. So take it all in, grab a lot of business cards, make a lot of friends. I think this is a great ecosystem for helping you exploit the opportunity that's in front of you. That was my slide. And then last but not least, the ability to quantify the business impact of innovation. And I talked a little bit about this last year, and I want to sort of get into it a little bit here. At Bright Idea, we collect a lot of data. We're constantly looking at our servers up, or how many bugs are open. How long does it take to get a new ticket through to production. But we have to choose one North Star that really guides everything we do. And that North Star is something we call customer reported business impact from innovation. So that's a bit of a mouthful. So let me just go through it slowly with you. So boom, customer reported. That means we can't make this stuff up. Some of our competitors put out big numbers on their website. They estimate the benefit and the value that they've gotten. But we only report on what you guys put into the software. If you didn't tell us that this happened, it didn't happen. Number 2, business impact. This is your projections, your outcomes, your quantitative, your qualitative. This is, if we can't drive impact, it's great to collect ideas, it's great to hold workshops, it's great to do design thinking, but if we can't show business impact at the end of the day, we're going to get shut down. They're gonna come and revoke your budget for your program. So we think business impact is really important. And from innovation and transformation. So any change that's going on in the business where the business is profiting from that is relevant to this metric. So again, I want to just dwell on the fact here for a second. This is our North Star, and I actually asked Dave to do something for me because, like I said a moment ago, our competitors often put out these huge numbers like, oh, we saved $10 billion in impact, and I think a lot of those companies are making up those numbers, and I think it muddies the water in the market, and I think it's problematic. So I asked Dave to bring in an auditing team, and he's got it for me. So, and what we have here, if I can open it, this will be tricky. So this is a letter from the auditors at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and it's a independent assurance where we actually let them look at our data. And so when we say that customers netted X billion dollars in business impact, we're now backing that up with proof and writing. So so the number for the past year is $1.8 billion in business impact. This is truly remarkable, and I'll just get this out of here. This is truly remarkable, and sometimes when I'm in a cab and I'm talking to the cabbie or a Lyft driver, they ask me what I do, and I explain it, and they say, "Oh, so you make a suggestion box?" And I say, "Well, kinda, but not really." So this is really amazing that all of you have been able to generate this impact. I would believe that there are people who have not yet even put in all the impact that they're generating. So it's a metric that we're going to watch closely going forward. And anyone who says they're better than Bright Idea, we can now prove that. So if anyone showed up this morning with and got a gold $sign on their name card, can you please stand up and be recognized? Because these are the people who contributed projections and outcomes. Thank you. So we believe this makes us #1 in customer-reported business impact from innovation. Sure, other people can say they collected more ideas or they have more users or whatever, but we think that's a smoke show. We think this is the most important metric and will define the best platform in the category. So thank you again for all that reporting outcomes. So the ability to quantify the business impact of innovation is the last tool in your toolbox here to exploit this opportunity. I talked about all the exponential change, all the explosion of corporate innovation, and the ability to make the world a better place. And I think you have all these assets at your disposal to go out there and have a broader impact than you had last year. So I just want to leave off by saying we've got a really great release for you. We've got some great presentations. Lockheed Martin's going to be here. Applause for them. US Bank's going to be here. Applause for them. General Electric's going to be here as well. We've got Genevieve and the product team coming out later, so you're going to see that. And then we've got an extra special party and concert from one of my favorite musicians, Ludovico Einaudi, all the way from Italy, so you don't want to miss that. So thank you again. Have a great Synthesize, and I look forward to speaking with all of you.